5 major lifestyle changes you undergo after your marriage. Hi friends, welcome to Marriage Realities, a comprehensive relationship channel. Today's video will be talking about the lifestyle and behavioral changes you undergo after your marriage. The before marriage and after marriage scenario is so different that you feel stunned by the drastic changes that happen in your relationship with your spouse. After marriage, your life does not seem to be what it was before your marriage. It is because nothing you imagine happens in your married life. You thought that your married life would be rosy and idealistic, but your married life is far from being idealistic. Everything happening between you and your spouse is opposite to what you dreamed about. Your spouse changes so much so that you feel you're living with a stranger. You too undergo many behavioral changes after marriage which your spouse does not like. There are times you long for the carefree life you led before your marriage. The changes in your life after your marriage is that much disliking to you. Before marriage, you have great dreams that you would enjoy a fairy tale-like relationship with your spouse. You're so dreamy that you feel your marriage would be perfect with you living happily ever after with your spouse. But in reality, the opposite of your expectations happens. All your dreams about a perfect marriage comes crumbling to dust. In fact, you are shocked when you cannot be what you really are. You have no other goal than to put on a mask of goodness or adjustment to save your marriage from failure. You often long for the individuality of loss to keep your relationship alive. You're terribly disappointed with your married life as you feel you're unable to be what you truly are. Yet another change you find unbearable is the different face of your spouse. When you were in love, your spouse seemed so loving and caring towards you. You dreamily assume that your spouse would continue to be so after your marriage also. You're virtually in cloud 9 on your wedding day. You're smug that you and your spouse are made for each other. You dreamily assume that your spouse is a perfect match to you. But after marriage, your spouse astonishingly sheds his or her mask of goodness, and the real face you see is completely different from what you dreamed about. Your dreams of a perfect marriage now becomes distant and unachievable. The way you have to change yourself to make your relationship work makes you feel baffled and confused. You're also stunned when your attitude towards your spouse undergoes drastic changes after marriage. Shall we now have a look at the ways your spouse changes his or her attitude towards you? Let us take a look at the behavior of your spouse towards you before marriage. Your spouse acts very appreciative towards you before marriage. Your spouse openly shows that he or she likes being with you. Your spouse confides about his or her feelings and emotions to you. When you're angry, your spouse pacifies you. When you're sad, your spouse instantly acts emotionally supportive towards you. Your spouse attracts you by looking presentable before you. Your spouse is pampering and indulgent in fulfilling your personal wishes and desires. Your spouse communicated with you constantly. Your spouse is pure fun to be with before your marriage, but everything about your spouse changes after your marriage. Here are the behavioral changes of your spouse after marriage. Your spouse is no longer appreciative towards you. Your spouse spends more time in his or her mobile phones or video games than with you. Your spouse scarcely makes up with you after he or she fights with you. Your spouse no longer cares to attract you and just let go his or her appearance. Your spouse becomes very calculative about the money he or she spends for you. Your spouse no longer confides his or her feelings with you. The disliking changes in the behavior of your spouse makes you worried about the lifespan of your marriage. Shall we now have a look at the lifestyle changes you undergo after your marriage? The number 1 lifestyle change is your carefree life is gone forever. Before marriage, you lived a carefree life. You did what you liked as you did not have any commitments or responsibilities. But after your marriage, you have tons of responsibilities thrust on you. Your fun days are gone forever. The number 2 lifestyle change after your marriage is your personal space gets narrowed. You can no longer spend fun times with your friends. It is because your spouse intrudes into your time with your friends. Your spouse demands that you spend time with him or her to show that you're really committed in your marriage. You can no longer help your parents as you wish to. When all your personal space is swallowed by your spouse, you can only fume inwardly in frustration and resentment. The number 3 lifestyle change after marriage is your spending is questioned by your spouse. Before your marriage, you spent your money on things you fancied. But after your marriage, your spouse questions you about your spending. Your spouse cites many family commitments and responsibilities and bombards you about being reckless in throwing away your money. The number 4 lifestyle change after your marriage is you have to adjust to things you do not like. You're taken aback that you have to make many adjustments you do not like if you want to save your marriage from failure. There are times when you change your way of dressing also just to please your spouse. You can no longer watch your favorite TV shows as the remote is with your spouse. Your spouse takes control of your hard-earned money too. Inwardly, you are displeased and upset by the many changes happening to you after your marriage. The number 5 lifestyle change after your marriage is you're consistently advised and preached by your spouse. Many a time your spouse treats you like a nitwit. He or she keeps on giving you advice as if you know nothing. Your spouse makes many rude comments about the way you do your work. Your spouse compares you in a lesser light with others while you fume at his or her audacity. Can you see the radical changes that happens in your relationship with your spouse? You often wonder where your spouse hid his or her anger, snobbery, ruthlessness, carelessness and uncaring attitude when you are in love. Who's in the wrong for the disliking changes that is happening in your marriage? Is it you or your spouse? Sadly, the fault lies with both of you. When you were in love, you built a fairy tale castle where you and your spouse will be the queen and the king. What you do not realize is that your marriage cannot be a fairy tale and that it will be raw reality to the core. The lifestyle changes you undergo after marriage is not something you expected to happen in your relationship. You're wrong in feeling so. You must accept your lifestyle changes as part and parcel of your marriage. Accepting the lifestyle changes that happens in your married life is the only way to save your relationship from crumbling to failure. Did this video make you understand the lifestyle changes and attitude both undergo after your marriage? Marriage Realities will have many such relationship eye-openers. Subscribe to my channel to understand your marriage in a new light. Press the bell icon for updates about my latest relationship videos. Make love forever until death do us part, your relationship goal.